Hello, welcome back to another episode of Off the Donut. Today we're joined by Gaia. You can go ahead
Hello.
and say hello. Gaia is a multimedia artist based out of Albania that makes surreal, colorful illustrations and soft, intimate singer-songwriter ballads. Following up 2022's Daisies for Ears, which we primarily talked about last time Gaia was on the show. Their new album, Everyone Is Worried About Me, releases through Lonely Bird Records on all platforms and is available for purchase on 50-count Smoky Tint cassette tapes next Friday, May 12th, 2023. Eerie, nostalgic, and yearnfully bittersweet, Everyone Is Worried About Me is a record that strikes you at your core, eliciting tears without you even realizing it. Touching on intense themes of grief, loss, aging, and violence, the album both soothes and shakes you, holds and isolates you, transfixing you in a spiral of highs and lows, depression and gaiety. Everyone is worried about me, yes, but that means everyone cares about me too. Otherwise, you can go ahead and check out both singles for the record, Cat Dog and Sedate, on the platform of your preference. Now, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I love how everyone who isn't Albanian slightly pronounces my name like gay a little bit every time.
Yeah.
It's like I feel it's like really fitting, honestly.
I was gonna say, are they wrong?
No,
Yeah.
fortunately, thank God.
Yeah.
Um, so hello.
So as always, we have our bev and snack check at the beginning. I kind of just woke up, so I have my bagel. I have some coffee and a little cherry mug, which I appreciate.
I have 2-day-old chips and I have tea.
What kind?
Actually, I'm fucking with you. There's nothing in here. I actually have iced tea, so
mm.
not sponsored.
You could have poured it in the mug.
It there's like a little bit left. I don't want to mix them.
It's understandable.
I'll just drink out of the bottle.
Okay, I guess it's a similar experience. So to start out, I usually start out by asking artists why they've chosen their name, but we talked about it last time, and again, it is just yours.
It is my name.
So in this case, I'd like to focus a little bit on the title of the EP. Obviously, again, it's called "Everyone Is Worried About You." Are they? Why do they? Why do you feel specifically that this title best captured like the tone or the message of the record?
It is a worrying piece of work. It is concerned. Okay, well, so I have to talk a little bit about the context in which it was written.
Mhm.
I made this about a year ago. Well, not like I feel like exactly a year ago, like in April of 2022 is kind of when it was finished. It was written in the span of a couple of months where I was grappling with a bunch of things that were not exactly new in my life. I wasn't conscious of them being there.
Mm.
And then when I became conscious of them, they kind of slapped me in the face, like one after the other. And I was like, okay, how do I deal with this? So um, I wrote music, yes, and like this entire record is kind of an attempt to deal with that. So regardless of whether I understood it at the time or not, um, people were worried about me, and they had a right to be because I was not really doing well. Um, However, at the time, giving this title to the record kind of had a hint of intended sarcasm in it. Because I had just started university and people were scary, and I didn't feel like I was doing too well like with socializing and stuff. And plus, with the friends I did have, I was very much in my head all the time, and my personal relationships were struggling a lot because of it.
Mm.
And I had this mentality at the time of like nobody cares, like, oh, people don't care about me, what the fuck. And so I'm very glad I'm over that now. But a part of the title is like, oh, everyone is worried about me when, uh, but it happens a lot to me for the meaning of things that I write to change over time.
Mm.
And that's what happened here. The way that I see it now, that title, it has none of that sarcasm left in it because I've tried very hard to cultivate my relationships in the past year,
Mm.
and I feel like I'm also in a much better place. And it's like like you said, like people are worried about me, not all the time anymore, but when they are, it's because they care, and it's nice.
Mm.
So yeah, that's it.
That's good. So
Mhm.
you said obviously you said that it started out with like a little bit more sarcasm. Was the record like named sort of before you finished it then? or that was just kind of like a thought that you had around the time, and so you thought that it would like be good to name it that.
Um, it's a title that I think I told you in the first interview that I have ideas for titles and I write them down.
Mm,
And so I have a shit ton of them. This one was it's something I came up with when I was like 18, so like maybe I don't know, like 6 months before I wrote the album.
mm,
And it was for a collection of poetry of all
mm.
things, which it never worked out for me. I stopped working on it, but I kept the title and then I used it eventually. So and I felt at the time that it was fitting. So
Weird. Yeah, no, that does make sense, and I think it
word.
is, honestly. So that's cool. Um, so sort of in the same way, going into the project, did you have any goals or ideas you set out to explore, whether that be in like how you wrote songs, how you approached like recording them, or just like the actual compilation of the album? Were there any like artists or songs specifically that inspired you while creating it?
The goal was to feel better.
That's a good goal.
Honestly. This entire thing was me coping. So, but I it worked. It was written in this writing frenzy that lasted a few months where I would just write all day. Like I am surprised I did not fail that semester with how
Mm.
much I skipped school just to stay home and do that. And I wrote so much. Like I have so much material that was made at the time that did not make the cut because it's shit. When you write all the time, you're not gonna come up with good stuff. Like a lot of it's gonna be bad. Um, but like I wrote a lot, and that was kind of the only thing that I had in mind. Just like, hey, feel better, like channel your feelings, get them out. I was not consciously thinking, get your feelings out because it's healthy, because I wasn't very conscious of that at the time. But it felt good to do it, so I did it. As for inspiration, Mount Eerie, you will
Mm,
not be surprised to hear that.
mm,
Especially a crow looked at me.
mm.
I heard that fucking record at the time and I was obsessed with it. And hearing it felt illegal in ways because it's like I'm not meant to be hearing this right now. This is a man's life, his grief, his
Mm.
loss, and it feels like I'm eavesdropping in a way. And I don't like it. But at the same time, it was fucking amazing. And it was intense in a way that made me uncomfortable, but I liked it.
Mm.
And I feel like up until then I'd had that kind of fear with my own work to not be too intense. I gave too much of a shit what the listener would think, I feel like.
Mm.
And then listening to that album, I was like, who gives a shit? You know what? Why not put a clip of me crying in the first song of the album?
Yeah,
Why
dude.
why not fucking do that? By the way, that thing happened completely randomly because I was recording the song and I felt like crying, so I stopped, I stopped crying, I pressed record and then started
Yeah,
crying
yeah.
again. And then I put it in the song. So yeah, that was my main inspiration, as well as my constant uh favorite artists, like favorites, like. But another one was Lisa Germano. Is that how you say her name? Um, so yeah, that is what I was listening to at the time and what influenced me the most.
Cool. So, and again, also, I guess with influences or just other musical interests, there are a number of featured talents throughout the record. Kremer contributes some vocals and instrumentation on Sedate. Also, if I pronounce that wrong, I'm sorry. Quiet Commotion contributes drums and guitar on Cat Dog and Xerox, and I think it's Kate Jameson contributed
Mhm.
violin and vocals on Birthday Song, Put Out, and the Xerox. I know Quiet Commotion is someone you've specifically worked with in the past. We've talked with them as well, but can you otherwise tell me a little bit about why you decided to work with these artists and what you felt like they might contribute to the record, just what your experience was working with them like overall?
Kate and Daniel, Quiet Commotion, they're like really close friends of mine, and
Mhm.
also Felix, Kramer, they're also fucking talented, and you know, I love working with people with music. I feel like it's a really great way to bond with people,
Mm.
especially like playing like jamming out and stuff, which I cannot do with them because they don't live in the same place as me. But um, they're fucking awesome people. And the weird thing is that with neither of them, I did not give them any direction on what I wanted them to do.
Mm.
Like I just knew that, for example, at the time I did not play drums. Daniel did, and I still can't record drums, so I still ask him to do that sometimes. So I asked him to do that for me, or like I cannot play violin and Kate can, so I asked her to do that for me, and they're all very willing all the time to help. And like I did not give any direction, so I was like, hey, can you do like violin, or like I don't know, like on put out, for example, before the violin, the song felt very boring to me. It was like just guitar and vocals. So I texted her. I was like, hey, like you're awesome, the violin. Do you think you can do something to this to make it sound less boring? And she was like, sure. And then she sent me back the thing that's on the final version, and I fell in love with it. I was like, what the fuck? And this is what happened with all of them, like
Mm.
Daniel and Felix and all of them. I just said like, hey, can you do like insert instrument? And they're like, sure. And then they handed back the thing that's on the final version, and I was like, I have no changes to make to this. Good
Mm.
job. Jesus fucking Christ. Thank you. So yeah, they're like really fucking talented people, and everyone watching should definitely check them out.
Yeah, that's cool. It's cool that it was sort of so raw in that way, especially I think because the guitar and violin specifically throughout the record add like a lot of that like eerie ambience to it.
Oh, absolutely. The album would never have been what it is without them. Like the collaboration with them helped so much. I'm so grateful.
Hmm. No, it ended up very, very pretty. I think that's really cool. So also in terms of collaboration, again, the album art specifically is something that I feel is especially reflective of sort of this like isolated, estranged tone of the record. Particularly like it has a very dull color scheme and with silhouetted creatures sort of lurking around the background. Can you talk a little bit about we've talked about it, but for the sake of this, can you talk a little bit more about how the art was made, and who you worked on with it, and just like where you can find them online?
Okay, so the cover art was made in collaboration with my friend Ash. They're a photographer. They recently shot for Leith Ross at one of their shows, which is pretty
Hmm.
cool. So basically, they took this picture, that the one on the cover, and they sent it. I'm like, I remember where, and I was like, hey, that's pretty cool. Can I use that? And they're like, sure. And I was like, okay. So I drew the little guy, and then I kept in touch with them. And then for the singles, they made the cover as well with AI, which as a visual artist who takes plagiarism and theft very seriously, I don't like AI. However, he only fed it the actual cover art, and then it just gave those things. So
Oh,
it's
okay.
cool.
Word,
Yeah, it's
word.
cool. Yeah, I don't like AI otherwise. Um,
It's
but
interesting though that you use the album art specifically to like
mhm.
create the other two. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I didn't even ask him to do it. He just did it, and I was like, hey, like, is this ethical? And he's like, yeah. I was like, okay. You can find him on Instagram at Bloom Like Wildfire. I'll send you that so you can put it on screen.
Yeah, nice. Very cool. So they're primarily a photographer then?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. They're very, very excited to have their picture on the like cover art.
Mm, cool. Okay, so you talked a little bit about poetry a moment ago, but on the inside of the cassette's liner notes, there is a poem on the inside that touches on some pretty heavy subjects such as body image, self-harm, and death, which especially visceral language regarding skin and pain. Can you talk a little bit more about it? Does that poem have a title? Was it created for the liner notes, or was that something that you had written before? And if it was, why did you decide that was um, something that like would best fit the liner notes or just the tone of the record?
If the poem has a title, it might have a title, but I would need to go digging through my notes app, and there's so much shit on there. I can't answer that right now. It was not written for the cassettes. Now, because I do write a lot of quote unquote poetry. Because I would not consider myself a poet by any means, but I love reading it.
Mm.
Because as a Gen Zer, I rarely have the attention span for prose. anymore,
Hmm.
which is unfortunate. But um, and since I like reading it, I in turn also really like writing it, and it helps me get my feelings out, and it satisfies this deep need in me to take my pain and turn it into something creative and good,
Hmm.
so that I can feel better about it. But uh, it was written beforehand. It is something that I wrote of my own volition, unfortunately, and it's on there because it's dark, and I feel like it matches the tone of the album. But specifically, it touches on themes that you mentioned, like self-harm and death, and all that stuff. Um, However, it talks about them in the context of needing someone to see that that's happening to you.
Hmm.
As I mentioned at the time, I was in a space where I was like, hey, nobody gives a shit about me or whatever. And it felt very fitting to have a poem about needing somebody to acknowledge that you are not doing okay. Because it does not take it away, like the pain or suffering or whatever. Somebody saying like, hey, I can see that you're struggling. It does not take the struggling away. But it does feel validating.
Hmm.
So that is why it's there. And as for the line that is blacked out, I know what it says underneath. However, everyone else will have like different interpretations,
Hmm.
and it's all going to be personal to them. And I like the idea. So
Yeah, yeah, because I think it's interesting that you have been talking about that because I'm pretty sure the line that follows up what is blacked out is something along the lines of like I like to or I need to and then write. Um, so I don't know. I just think that's interesting, sort of tying into how you've been talking about using literature and like language just in general to like express um your pain through a creative outlet and like just sort of like the therapeutic process of that. So that's pretty cool.
thank you.
Um, what's the sample from the beginning and the end of Birthday Song? Is it from the same thing or are they
It is
separate?
the same sample. Yes, it's the same thing beginning and end. I wish I could find the link,
Yeah.
but it's been like a year. So, my friend Dafon, who I worked with on Kingbird, one of the songs there, they're super cool, super awesome person. Uh, and like I was showing them the song. Which song is a sample? Birthday song, yeah. I was showing them birthday song, and they were like, "Oh, this is cool. Why don't you like include a sample of people from like the 1920s singing Happy Birthday?" And I was like,
Oh,
where do I
wow.
find that? And they were like, I'll find that for you. And they sent it. And I was like, thanks. This is awesome. What the fuck? So yeah, that's
That
what that is.
that's so specific too. Do you know why they said the 1920s?
It was like a really, really, really early recording. I don't know why they said 1920s. I don't even
Mm,
know if they said 1920s. It's been a year.
that was just
Um,
the general like idea of it.
yeah, I'm pretty sure it was 1920s, but don't quote me on that.
Mm. Weird. So after that, Sedate, which again is one of the singles, has this really cool dynamic between this sort of typical like acoustic folk instrumentation in the background, and a lot of heavy noise and like distortion also mixed in. Can you talk about this choice as a little bit as an artistic measure? Was that something you mentioned earlier specifically that you kind of just let the other artists that you work with sort of run free, but in terms of like having like the mix of like more soft acoustic and more like harsh noise, was that something that you kind of wanted or planned going into the song, or that just kind of happened with what Kremer did for it?
That's kind of okay. So I did the same thing of like letting him do whatever the fuck he wanted. Um, and then it ended up being like my favorite song on the record. Uh, but I did kind of expect it to be something similar because, I know his style, I know what his music sounds like, so I expected him to bring something similar to the table. And I wasn't so, I kind of imagined it would be something like that, but I didn't expect it to, you know, mix so well. It worked out way better than I had even hoped. So yeah, it's a fucking awesome song. It was not planned,
Hmm,
but yeah.
cool. So then with that, Sedate's Reprise sort of has like a similar dynamic. There's an amalgamation of noise and voices that isolates itself at the beginning of the song. And then there's sort of like a cut, or like a beat, and then it moves back towards the reprise, the structure of the previous song. Was that similarly intentional? Did the reprise sort of come from like after you got the stuff from Kremer back? You just wanted to like have sort of like another slower version of it?
Okay, so basically, yes, the reprise was written after the original was finished. Basically, I've written a lot of shit. Like all of everything that I write is from experience, and today specifically and the reprise are about, I guess, a culmination of things building up
Mm,
um to the point where something happens. And specifically, the thing that happened was I ended up in the hospital, and that's what
mm,
those songs are about.
mm,
And basically, what I was going for, the original is kind of that, feeling scared and manic and the terrified, like, holy shit, what's going on? And then the reprise is like after the drugs have kicked in, so to speak.
mm,
Um, but basically, the intro to the reprise, the amalgamation of voices, is kind of supposedly like everything's going through my head before the drugs kick in. They're all like little bits from poems
mm,
I've written. I'd written like shit I'd written over time up to the point where I made that song.
mm,
And it's all about events that, in a way, led me to the hospital, I guess. And it's kind of like I'm thinking about all of them at the same time, and
mm,
then the drugs kick in, and it's like the reprise rolls in, and it's much slower and more somber and
mm.
kind of, I don't know, it's like surrendering.
Yeah. No, it's interesting that you say that because I think that does make a lot of sense. I was going to ask what it was specifically that you were reading, but I obviously you just answered that. So that I don't know, that is cool. I like that as like a concept.
Thank you. I
Okay.
love your makeup, dude.
Thank you. I like
I
doing
wish I had. Sorry.
I was gonna say I just like doing weird shit like this.
I wish I had the patience to do stuff like that myself, honestly.
Honestly, it takes me like 5 minutes, dude.
Does?
Yeah, I because most times uh I like get up in the morning and go downstairs and like shower and then my my bathroom is downstairs, so I have to like walk across my whole fucking house to get to it. But I it's right by the kitchen, so I'll get out of the shower, I'll like put my coffee in and toast whatever the fuck I'm gonna eat. And then while that's like cooking or whatever, I come upstairs and do it. Yeah, I don't know. It's pretty simple. It's just like eyeshadow, and then I do like different designs with the eyeliner and stuff.
That's
Um,
really cool.
depending on what I want to do for that day. So it's like it doesn't take that long, and I also do it in between things, so it doesn't really feel like it takes up a lot of
I get
time.
that.
Um, yeah. So, anyways, the Xerox ends the record on a much different tone than the rest of the songs. It's very very busy at the beginning. It's more cinematically emotional through the middle, and it's very tranquil and quiet at the end. It sort of seems to touch on all the sounds explored throughout the record, but a little bit more broken up as opposed to meshed together like some of the other songs. Can you just talk a little bit about how this song was made? If there's a reason why you decided to sort of break it up like that.
Okay, so I wrote that, right? And it was kind of just like me with my guitar, just kind of like, angry and shit.
Mhm.
And then I decided to record it, which like it was one of the many, many, many things that I recorded at the time, and was not expecting it to work out, but it did. And I was like, you know what, this needs fucking drums. So I contacted Daniel and I was like, hey, drums. And then he did drums and they sounded awesome. I was like, cool, this is too short. I need to add more to it. So I added the other section and I was like, cool, this needs violin. So I texted Caitlin. I was like, hey, can you do violin? She was like, sure. So she did violin and then I added them. And then I was like, hey, Daniel, like, do you want to do like a drum solo at the end?
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck yeah. And I was like, cool. And you asked me why I put it at the end, and I never have answers for these because, like you asked me earlier. I mean, I never have answers for these because I struggle a lot with like the order in which I'm gonna put them. There's like a name for that. I don't remember. Um, I'm not a proper musician. So, and I struggle a lot with that. So, however, it did feel very fitting, I guess, to put that in the end.
Mhm.
Because as you said earlier, it kind of covers different uh vibes.
Mhm.
Again, not a real musician.
No, but I
Uh,
mean, a lot of music sort of is in just kind of how it feels. So if it feels right, then
fair enough.
it probably is.
Yeah. I don't feel like vibe is a music theory term, you know.
Probably not, but it's the point is still it still comes across.
But I no, I felt because of that, and also because I had all my friends like helping me on it, and since they helped me so much throughout the album, it felt fitting to have it all in the last song and do with that. So that's my answer, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm
because
still
I
confused about that one.
I was gonna say I think I might be wrong, but I think that's also the only song on the album that has like distortion on it, or like just like distorted guitar or something.
I Sedate also has it,
Mm,
but I
okay.
didn't make that one, so
Like I said, I
the distortion.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think doesn't Sedate has I want to say that guitar is a little bit more like ambient kind of in the background. I think off the top of my head. Again, I might be wrong with that, but
Fair. Feels
um
more drony, right?
yeah, yeah. Whereas
Okay.
the Xerax is kind of like a distortion that's similar almost to like kind of like it's like sort of upbeat at the beginning and
Oh,
sort of
okay. Yeah, I
punky
get what you
like
mean.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I was experimenting a lot with because like I use Reaper. I don't have an amp.
Mm. So you just use
Uh
like the plugins for it.
yeah, and it usually sounds like shit, but I figured out how to make it sound less like shit. And I would love to thank Dafon again because they're like really into mixing and mastering, producing stuff. And they've helped me a lot with that.
Did they like mix the record?
No, they didn't. I mixed it myself.
Hmm.
Mixed it. I don't know.
Moved a
But
couple buttons.
yeah, exactly. And but like added some reverb. But that one is also I can count on them to always tell me the truth because like I'm
Hmm.
like, hey, how does this sound? It does not sound good. Okay, thanks.
All right, I'll do better.
But like I was experimenting a lot with the electric guitar. No, sorry, distortion on electric guitar.
Hmm.
Um, and I don't know. I just thought it sounded cool. So a lot of it was just me because I thought it sounded cool. I don't have answers for a lot of them.
Hey,
Sorry.
no, like I said though, that I think that is completely valid. It's not technical, but like
Yeah.
I think it's more important for music to feel right than anything else. So like I said, when it does, it just kind of does.
Yeah.
Um, so overall, as we've gone over it, the album primarily touches on the ideas of grief and loss. And you've already talked a little bit about this, what this question is going to ask, but um, yeah, you explored it in various ways across all 7 tracks. Um, did you hope that listeners are going to come out of this record feeling any type of way about it? Was it? I know you mentioned that a lot of the writing was more so like kind of a form of expression and therapy for you, but um, do you hope that like do you hope that there is sort of like a message or a kind of idea that you want people to come away from it?
I hope people are a little bit unsettled and concerned and like
Worried,
what the
perhaps?
fuck? Exactly. I want people to be worried about me. Like I want them to listen to it and be like, the
Damn, bitch. All right.
fuck.
Cool. Well, so those are all the questions that I have for you for today. So this is your time to say whatever you want to say. If you want to leave the show with any specific words, you can also plug any social media you have, any other things that you want people to know about.
Um, my Instagram is at guys in a band because I'm not a band. Although Instagram says musician slash band, I'm not a slash band. Um, Yeah, no, you can find me on all streaming services. It's everywhere, you know. You just have to look for it. Um, yeah, I don't know. I'm really proud of this record. Like I've been sitting on it for a year, and I'm really, really, really fucking excited. And also for the cassettes, I designed them myself. I designed the cassette J cards myself, and I'm very, very happy with how they turned out. And yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
Thank you for
no,
having me.
yeah, of course. Thank you for being on thank you for being here. I also am really excited about how these turned out. We for the cassettes, we also started working with Impetus from Delaware. So they are the people that like sort of put it all together. They're really cool people. I also work with them on some other stuff, and just like working with like a local manufacturer as opposed to like more corporate like big thing is I think was really cool, and I'm glad that this was the first one that we were able to work on with it. So yeah, I'm really excited about these. Like I mentioned, you guys can check them out. The link for all the fun things will be in the description and everything, so you can check them out there. Like I said, the record comes out next week on Friday, May 12th. You can listen to it on whatever platform you choose, and like I said, you can grab a tape below. Thank you again for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. All right, y'all. Have a good one.
You too.